Lynn,
Hey there. The humidifiers that we purchased over the weekend have worked wonders. The piano works this morning.
yay.
It was money well spent for the meeting to get 3 dehumidifiers.
It feels warmer in there too, without the damn.
It's cold in here like usual, but it feels a lot less muggy, that's for sure. So we've got one in here, one in the front hall, and one in Mills Hall. And the piano in Mills Hall has always had sticky notes, and I just plunked on some of the ones that I know stick, and they work fine. Yeah, so obviously a good part of the problem has been humidity for years. Steve remembers monthly meeting giving trustees permission to buy the humidifiers a year or more ago, and that's when he got sick. And it didn't get done, and now it has, and it makes a world of difference.
Well, telling being sick is no excuse.
Oh,
COVID,
yeah, right.
COVID is
Well,
hardly an
sick-
excuse for not performing his trustee duties.
Okay, I'll tell him that, but I'll tell him that you said it.
Sure. I bet you do.
Yeah. Brent wants you to know that being sick last year was no excuse for falling down on the job of buying the dehumidifier.
Remind him he's in the meeting room and to watch his language.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's kind enough to come with me when I have to come up here and do meeting for worship. So it's kind of nice not to be here by myself. Sylvia must have been having problems. I saw her, they were here and then they logged out again.
Yeah.
How are you, John? How are you, Sue?
I'm well, thank you.
Brent, did you get my email about recording monthly meeting?
Yes, I did. I answered it. I said, yes,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay, I haven't looked at my phone for a little while. So yeah, that way I can just take the minutes tomorrow and have them for the newsletter and all that.
I don't know what happened, but the email with the link and all our documents for monthly meeting didn't go out. It was just sitting
Weird.
there in the draft or in the outbox file. So I had to resend it this morning.
Want to get over here where you can be seen? No. Not much. Well, no, that's true.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey.
We hear you, but we don't see you.
You don't see me?
No,
Huh.
I do.
I don't. Oh, you
I
do?
Yeah, I can see Chip.
Okay, must be me.
You're not really missing much, Brent.
Chip, your background looks like I Spy, and we're supposed to find out what has moved since last week.
That's right.
Morning, Kristen.
Good morning.
Hi, Kristen.
Morning. Hello to all.
Morning, Norma.
Morning, Norma.
Good morning.
So Sylvia and Dan, when are you planning on leaving for Belize?
I leave tomorrow morning early. Tuesday morning early for, tomorrow I'm attending a William Penn board meeting by Zoom. Tuesday morning we leave very early for Florida for 3 days to stay with Brother Dave. Dan's been to all the siblings' homes except Dave, so we're going to stop there for 3 days and then fly out of Miami on Saturday morning for Belize and be there. I'll be there a month and Dan will be there about 5 weeks.
Oh, good. I'm sure you'll have a good time.
We were just reading from one of Tom Mullen's books, Mountaintops and Molehills, about preparing for warm weather. Coincidentally, it just was really helpful. Or maybe divinely designed. I don't know. Maybe he was getting our attitude in shape to be hot.
Hello, Dave. Hello, Chris.
And they say, Sylvia and Dan, that it's supposed to be in the, 80, low 80s by the time you get here,
Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
and sunny and nice all week, they say.
Yay.
They aren't always right.
Some of our kids just got back from Orlando. Mike and Laura and their daughter Lexi and her husband and their 3 kids. And they were not quite ready to get off the plane with they hadn't brought their winter coats with them. So
Well,
those who picked them up had to take winter coats to get them bundled up.
I understand that Lynn and Steve are leaving about next Sunday, heading south. Maybe
Saturday.
try to catch up with them while they're down this way.
This time next week, we'll be driving through Atlanta. Yuck.
Better Sunday morning than Friday morning.
That's why we plan it that way, yes. We spend the first night in Chattanooga and then drive through Atlanta early Sunday morning.
Have a motor home.
Yes, with the RV, yeah.
You don't tow a trailer.
It's a 5th wheel, pulls behind pickup truck.
Okay.
Well, we've done that similarly, stayed in Chattanooga and come on down the next day from Atlanta.
We spend a second night in Lake City, Florida, and then have a short day then on from there to Arcadia.
Done that too. I'll have to find out where you stay.
What is it?
Yeah, you want to find out where we stay?
Yeah, just curious. We can talk about it when you get here.
Yeah, we'll be glad to tell you about that.
We probably stayed in the same place, I expect. There's only 2 there and one of them's not worth staying at.
That pretty well limits it.
Hope that's not the one they made reservations at.
Yeah, we've been to this one before, so it's okay.
It's our favorite place.
We've been to some we definitely don't want to go back to, but this isn't one of them.
Mhm.
It's either that or a Walmart parking lot. So take your choice.
They're getting hard to stay in. A lot of
They-
the cities and towns don't let people stay there overnight anymore.
Yep.
Kristen, what have you been up to?
What'd you say?
Kristen.
Been traveling around, visiting our auctions for work, doing branch trainings, things like that. So I was in New Jersey the last 2 weeks, but now I'm
Jersey?
home. New Jersey. Yep. I am home now for the whole week. I get a home week this week, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Nice.
It was certainly a nice service yesterday, Brent.
Yeah, it was. I especially enjoy Loring and Rebecca's singing.
Yes.
Yes.
She has such a
Yes.
sweet voice.
Yes, very nice.
It was nice to see lots of people we hadn't seen for a long time.
Yes, it was.
Didn't even recognize some of them right away. I don't know what happened. After 2 years, we get old, I guess.
That and the masks, that changes people's appearance an awful lot too.
I've always been bad with names and, recognize faces, and that makes it doubly hard now. With the mask, it's like somebody says, well, hi, Brett. And it's like, hi, how are you? It's been a long time. Give me a clue. Who are you? Well, it was hard to think yesterday of Ruth not being there ever again.
Yes.
It was always a pleasant presence, for one, at least as long as I knew her. Just a good, kind person.
Yes.
We do understand, though, that when Charles brought a snake home from school for Christmas vacation, Ruth was not necessarily her positive, upbeat self about having snakes in the basement in a bag. Son David said, well, yeah, sometimes the inside story is a little different from the outsiders.
There were several critters in that house at some over the years. And Charles could make the sounds of every one of them just as authentically as if they were right there with you.
Oh, wow.
Lee Mills was saying, asked me if I remembered Omar. And I said, oh, yeah. He said he almost, to break the seriousness of, he almost told an Omar story. Omar
Who
was
is
the big Saint
Omar?
Bernard dog.
Oh.
The big Saint Bernard that lived with them. Yeah. I think he had 2 or 3 different Saint Bernards over the years, but they were.
I hardly knew them, just mostly knew of them because when they arrived in '61 in West Newton, I departed for college in Kansas and all points south and west.
Were very interesting people. Just lived their life to the fullest, seemed to me.
Who was it, Brent? You said you'd like to hear, you wondered about some of the stories they heard on those freighters from the crew.
Yeah, you would definitely see a different side of people and ports on a freighter than you would on some of these gigantic cruise ships that float around in the Caribbean. I think it would be more interesting to be on a freighter.
Me too. No interest in those other things.
Yep.
I remember them talking about when they went to Kenya and there was another family, I think, on the freighter, and the one son was running wild on the freighter the whole time, climbing the mast and all sorts of stuff.
Sounds like David.
Well, I found it interesting. And one of the last trips they took was to Greece, I think. They went, flew there and traveled around Greece. And part of their trip preparations was how to send a body home or how to be cremated in a foreign country. Because even at that time, Charles' health wasn't in good condition. But they were going anyway, and that was the preparation, part of their preparation.
So I'll hear about that freighter that went down yesterday, day before yesterday, one or the other, over near the Azores, had 4,000 automobiles on it. And, something like 300 Bentleys, Porsches, and all of them. They were going to try to tow it back to the Azores or somewhere if it didn't sink. I thought maybe they ought to tow it down to Cuba where those guys could rebuild them and drive them.
Yeah.
There you go, Kristen. You're going to have another big job.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, it's about that time. Are there, I think Norma has an update on Stan and his family.
Yes, I believe it was maybe Thursday or Friday, Heather fell on the ice and ended up in the emergency room. And they thought she had injured her spleen, but then Stan texted me later yesterday afternoon and said that she had broken 3 ribs and was having difficulty in breathing. So we need to hold them, their family, in the light and pray that Heather can recover.
I've been in touch with Emily Cordray Haney this week, and have been in touch with Brenda ever since they left the meeting. And Emily says that Brenda is, she has multiple sclerosis and has had for nearly 20 years. And she is declining fairly rapidly at this point and all of that. So I'm sure that Brenda and Emily's family, who has been her caregivers for many years, could use our prayers as well.
I would appreciate prayers again for my son, Tim. He was doing pretty well in their initial separation, but he's long struggled with mental health issues, and he had a really bad week this week, couldn't get in anywhere to be checked. So he has an appointment at Sharon Eskenazi Mental Health Center tomorrow morning. He was pretty non-functional for a few days, not sleeping, and sleep deprivation is bad enough at the worst times. But so he had found out some more things about that precipitated their separation that he didn't know were going on. So he's having kind of a tough time to get hold of him and his, I think, soon to be ex-wife in the light. That would be helpful.
We'll be traveling to Belize on Saturday for a month, and we don't really have much idea about how the internet will serve us there. So if we don't show up, don't worry about us. We'll just probably can't get online. We're supposed to. You're accustomed to doing that, but it's been 2 years since he's been there, so to check on all that.
Let's, if you put yourself on mute, Lynn's the worship leader. I'll do an opening prayer and then turn it over to Lynn. A loving and gracious God, you know the many concerns that are on our hearts that we've lifted to you. We pray for the Bailey family, for Tim and Sally, for traveling mercies for Dan and Sylvia. We also continue to hold Ruth Albert's family, be with them as they grieve, and be with the world that seems to be so hurting, especially on what looks to be soon a war zone in Ukraine. Give leaders wisdom despite themselves, oh Lord. Give us wisdom despite ourselves. Give us your guidance. Be with us this morning as we worship you in spirit and in truth. We pray. Amen.
Well, instead of picking a theme for our hymns today, We're going to look at a particular songwriter this month. Some of you are familiar with a lyricist named Fanny Crosby. She lived from 1820 to 1915 in New York and New England. She was known during her lifetime as both the queen of gospel songwriters and the mother of modern congregational singing in America. During her 94 plus years of life, she wrote the lyrics for somewhere upwards of 8,000 hymns. When a person writes that many poems, they can't all be good, of course, but some of our most well-known hymns are part of those 8,000. From what I learned about Fanny, she often wrote 6 or 7 hymns a day and worked on as many as 12 poems at a time. That's pretty amazing in and of itself, but she was blind. She did all of that in her head and then dictated the poems to someone who wrote them down for her. As somebody who can't write one poem with a pen and paper, I can't even imagine doing all of this in my head, but she did. Today, some of her lyrics are considered kind of gushy and sentimental and maybe not very theological even, but they fit the Victorian era or the Victorian mood of her day. And if you've looked at the email I sent out yesterday with the list of hymns, they're very familiar to us today, some of our most familiar hymns. One of her collaborators was George Stebbins, and he said this about Fanny: "There was probably no writer in her day who appealed more to the valid experience of the Christian life, or who expressed more sympathetically the deep longings of the human heart than Fanny Crosby." Now, our Sing Joyfully hymn book has 14 hymns written by Fanny. And when I looked through all those, there were only 4 of them that I was only sort of familiar with or didn't know at all. All the rest of them were very, very familiar. So my challenge today was to squeeze in as many of them as possible for our meeting for worship. So these are Fanny Crosby hymns that I'm sure you're all familiar with.
And a couple of those hymns were words to the effect that Fanny Crosby had felt the streams of light in ways that we as sighted people may not have sharpened senses to do. When Dale's niece was 5 years old and we met her for the first time in California, in a place unfamiliar to both her father and her grandfathers, because they met us at Youth Quake and took us to a restaurant, and it was unfamiliar territory to all of us. She was 5 years old, and I was impressed with how quickly she learned where things are. And when her father said, Karen, your French fries are at 6 o'clock and your hamburgers at 9 o'clock and your ketchup's at 2 o'clock, she just dove right in as if she knew where everything was and had developed that sense of space in a way that most of us just take for granted because we can see it. And when we got in the car to leave there, she said, we got about 2 blocks down the road, and she said, Grandpa, you turned the wrong way. And as a 5-year-old to have already developed that sense of direction, I thought was just incredible. And she lived quite a productive life and is still going strong with her ability to help others who have handicaps even worse than hers. So I was thinking of how some of us, especially how I, take for granted the gifts of sight and sound and taste and feeling, and often don't even think about developing a new route for communication because I already have working ones. But you watch the Olympics this week, and there's many times of reference to those who had been injured who are back in for the Paralympics next week, and whose blessings have been taken away only to develop new ways of connecting with the world. And I just want to be grateful for what I have and ask for the strength to develop new ways when I lose those things.
We'll transition to program time. I know some folks need to leave for various reasons. There will be monthly meeting at 10:45, and we hope to see as many of you there as can make it. So let's continue in worship. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Bye, everyone.
Hearts free. If so, we'll close meeting for worship and then reconvene at a 1/4 for a monthly meeting for business.
Okay. See ya.